Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12, Text 43. Yashat Tara Bandhur Bhuvitasya Dhirudam
Yashatra bandhu bhuvitashyati
Anva Aru Rukshedapi Varshapugahe
Manvaruchitapi varshapuge
Satpancha Varsho Yadaho Biralpe
Satpancha varsho yadabhir alpe
Prasadya Vaikuntamavapatat Padam.
prasad vaikuntham avapatam.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Dhruva Maharaj attained an exalted position at the age of only 5 or 6 years after undergoing austerity for 6 months. Alas, a great Kshatriya cannot achieve such a position even after undergoing austerities for many, many years. So Narad Muni, Dhruva Maharaj's spiritual master, is so happy that Dhruva Maharaj has achieved perfection. He's gone to Vaikuntha Lok, that he's singing his glories and praise. Just like a father is always very proud for his son's achievements, similarly, the spiritual father is very proud of the spiritual advancement of his disciple. So here Narad Muni is so happy that he's singing the glories of Dhruva Maharaj. And yesterday we heard that he said Dhruva Maharaj achieved the perfection because he followed the instructions of his spiritual master. We can see then that is an important requisite, to follow the instructions. So Dhruva Maharaj is described herein as Shatra Bandhuhu, which indicates that he was not fully trained as a Kshatriya because he was only 5 years old. He was not a mature Kshatriya. A Kshatriya or Brahmana has to take training. A boy born in the family of a Brahmana is not immediately a Brahmana. He has to take up the training and the purificatory process. So Dhruva Maharaj, when he left for the forest, he was only 5 years old. So what training could a 5-year-old boy have gotten, as a Kshatriya? That's why he's called Shatra Bandhu. Like we also say Brahmana Bandhu, means friend of a Brahmana, means somebody who's born in the family of a Brahmana, but not necessarily he's been trained to qualify as a Brahmana. It's not that if one is born in the family of a Brahmana, one automatically becomes a Brahmana. He has to be trained. Just like somebody born in the family of a doctor does not automatically become a doctor. He has to learn, he has to train to become a doctor himself. The great sage Narad Muni was very proud of having a devotee disciple like Dhruva Maharaj. He had many other disciples, but he was very pleased with Dhruva Maharaj because in one lifetime, by dint of his severe penances and austerities, he had achieved Vaikuntha, which was never achieved by any other king's son or Raja Rishi throughout the whole universe. There is the instance of the great King Bharat, who was also a great devotee, but he attained Vaikuntha Lok in 3 lives. In the first life, although he executed austerities in the forest, he became a victim of too much affection for a small deer. And his next life, he had to take birth as a deer. Although he had a deer's body, he remembered his spiritual position, but still he had to wait until the next life for perfection. In the next life, he took birth as Jar Bharat. Of course, in that life, he was completely freed from all material entanglement, and he attained perfection and was elevated to Vaikuntha Lok. So Narad Muni is really very, very happy with Dhruva Maharaj's achievement. In one life, he has perfected his life. He was really determined. For 6 months, he really focused on it, nothing else. He was doing his austerities, he was doing devotional service. And this is how he conquered the unconquerable. Krishna is Ajita. He cannot be conquered. But as we read yesterday, he allows himself to be conquered by the love of his devotee. He allows himself. So here Prabhupada is giving the example of Bharat Maharaj, who attained perfection, but it took him 3 lives because he got too attached to a deer. Because of his attachment, the next life he was born as a deer. And after he gave up the body of the deer, he was born as Jar Bharat. And in that life, he attained perfection. The lesson from the life of Dhruva Maharaj is that if one likes, one can attain Vaikuntha Lok in one life without waiting for many other lives. My Guru Maharaj, Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, used to say that every one of his disciples could attain Vaikuntha Loka in this life without waiting for another life to execute devotional service. One simply has to become as serious and sincere as Dhruva Maharaj. Then it is quite possible to attain Vaikuntha Loka and go back home, back to Godhead in one life. So each and every one of us can go back home, back to Godhead in one life. Srila Prabhupada would say that. He's here quoting Srila Prabhupada is quoting his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. And that every one of his disciples could go back to Godhead. And so this is an open invitation by Krishna and by his sincere devotees, inviting us to go back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada is saying one simply has to become as serious and as sincere as Dhruva Maharaj. And that's why Dhruva Maharaj's story is very inspiring for us, very encouraging for us. He had material desires and he is still engaged in devotional service, and Krishna fulfilled his material desires and also took him back to Vaikuntha. Maitreya Vacha.
Maitreya Uvacha.
Etate bihitam sarvam.
Etate abhihitam sarvam.
Yat prashto ham ihatav tvaya.
Yat prashto aham eva tvaya.
Dhruvasyo dama yashasas.
Dhruvasya yashodama yashashas.
Charitam sammatam satam.
Charitam sammatam satam.
The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidur, whatever you have asked from me about the great reputation and character of Dhruva Maharaj, I've explained to you in all detail. Great saintly persons and devotees very much like to hear about Dhruva Maharaj. Srimad Bhagavatam means everything in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whether we hear the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Lord, or we hear about the character, reputation, and activities of his devotees, they are all one and the same. So when we hear about the pure devotees, it's also about hearing about the Lord. Why? Because the devotee is always thinking about the Lord. He's always serving the Lord. So the pastimes of the Lord and the devotees are always together. Dhruva Maharaj, he's a pure devotee of the Lord. He's doing everything for the pleasure of the Lord. Neophyte devotees simply try to understand the pastimes of the Lord and are not very interested in hearing about the activities of his devotees. But such discrimination should not be indulged in by any real devotee. Sometimes less intelligent men try to hear about the rasa dance of Krishna and do not take care to hear about other portions of Srimad Bhagavatam, which they completely avoid. So it happens, many people, they say, no, we are going to just hear about the 10th canto of Krishna, specifically about the rasa dance. But we won't be able to understand the rasa dance till the time we have not understood the first 3 cantos, the position of the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada is pointing out that actually any devotee, he is not going to discriminate between any pastimes of the Lord. The pastimes of the Lord and the pure devotees. Lord Chaitanya, he would hear Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit, and when he was hearing the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj, Lord Chaitanya would hear it with so much relish that he would, as the pastime was finished, Lord Chaitanya would request Gadadhar Pandit to again repeat the same pastime. And he would hear this pastime 3-4 times. Like that, he would tell him, please again begin from the beginning. So there are professional Bhagavad reciters who abruptly go to the Ras Leela chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, as if other portions of Srimad Bhagavatam were useless. This kind of discrimination and abrupt adoption of the Rasa Leela pastimes of the Lord is not approved by the Acharyas. A sincere devotee should read every chapter and every word of Srimad Bhagavatam, for the beginning verses describe that it is the ripened fruit of all Vedic literature. That's how Bhagavatam should be read, studied. Bhagavatam should be read and studied from the beginning, from first canto, first chapter, first verse. And then gradually, the whole Bhagavatam should be read. Devotees should not try to avoid even a word of Srimad Bhagavatam. The great sage Maitreya therefore affirmed herein that the Bhagavatam is Samatam Satam, approved by great devotees. Like how if you're a scientist, there'll be certain papers approved by the scientist, or you read this paper, you read this book. Similarly, for spiritual advancement, spiritual perfection, the devotees recommend us to hear and read and study Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is called the ripened fruit of all Vedic literature. All the Vedas are very vast. It's not possible for us to read the Vedas, and we do not even have the qualification to understand. But that's the reason Krishna has left behind this Bhagavatam for us. It's the ripened fruit of all Vedic literature. So all the Vedas, the essence of the Vedas is there in this Bhagavatam. And that's the importance of Bhagavatam. Dhanyam yashasyam ayushyam.
Dhanyam yashashyam ayushyam
Punyam swasti ayanam mahat.
punyam swasti ayanam mahat
Swargyam dravyam samanyasyam.
swargyam dravyam saumanasyam
Prashasyamakamarashasanam.
prashasyam aghamarashanam.
By hearing the narration of Dhruva Maharaj, one can fulfill desires for wealth, reputation, and increased duration of life. It is so auspicious that one can even go to a heavenly planet or attain Dhruva, which was achieved by Dhruva Maharaj just by hearing about him. The demigods also become pleased because this narration is so glorious and it is so powerful that it can counteract all the results of one's sinful actions. So Maitreya Muni is telling Vidur, the glories of Dhruva Maharaj, the benefit of hearing about Dhruva Maharaj, that it can fulfill all one's desires for wealth, reputation, and even long life. And one can go to a heavenly planet or even go up to Dhruva. How? Just by hearing about him. This is how powerful it is to hear about the pure devotees and to hear about the Lord. You see, when we hear about any mundane material person, we do not automatically get all their opulences. But here, by hearing about Dhruva Maharaj, we can go up to Dhruva. We can get as much wealth as we desire, as much reputation, as much as a long life. And also our sinful reactions get nullified with by hearing about him. You know, we're always trying to counteract sinful reactions. And here, by hearing about Dhruva Maharaj, our sinful reactions can be counteracted. There are different types of men in this world, not all of them pure devotees. Some are karmis, desiring to acquire vast wealth. There are also persons who are only after reputation. Some desire to be elevated to the heavenly planets or to go to Dhruva, and others want to please the demigods to get material profits. Herein it is recommended by Maitreya that every one of them can hear the narration about Dhruva Maharaj and thus get their desired goal. It is recommended that the devotees, Akama, the Karmis, Sarvakama, and the Jnanis who desire to be liberated, Mokshakama, should all worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead to acquire the desired goals of life. So Bhagavatam says that whether we are full of desires, material desires, we have no material desire, or we desire liberation, simply engage in devotional service to Krishna, and our desires will be fulfilled in the most perfect manner. Similarly, if anyone hears about the activities of the Lord's devotee, he can achieve the same result. There is no difference between the activities and character of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and those of his pure devotees. So by hearing about Dhruva Maharaj, one can get desired wealth, one can get rid of sinful reactions, can go to the heavenly planets, increase duration of life, or go to Vaikuntha. Go back home, back to Godhead. Whatever one desires can be fulfilled. So powerful to hear about a pure devotee of Krishna. So powerful. Shrutvetak Shraddhaya Bhikshanam.
Shrutvetat Shraddhaya Bhikshanam.
Achyuta Priya Chestitam.
Achyuta Priya Chestitam.
Bhaved Bhaktir Bhagavate.
Bhaved Bhaktir Bhagavati.
Yaya Syat Klesha Sangshayaha.
Yaya Syat Klesha Sankshaya.
Anyone who hears the narration of Dhruva Maharaj and who repeatedly tries with faith and devotion to understand his pure character attains the pure devotional platform and executes pure devotional service. By such activities, one can diminish the threefold miserable conditions of material life. So this is the fruit that we are getting by hearing about Dhruva Maharaj. By trying to understand Dhruva Maharaj's narration, one can attain pure devotional service. We are all troubled by this threefold miseries at any point of time because we are in this material world. These miseries, they trouble us. But by hearing about Dhruva Maharaj, we can get rid of such miseries and engage in pure devotional service. Here the word Achyuta Priya is very significant. Dhruva Maharaj's character and reputation are great because he is very dear to Achyuta, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Achyuta, infallible. Krishna is infallible. Even Arjuna calls him infallible Achyuta in Bhagavad Gita. We are all fallible. All the living entities, we are fallible. Only Krishna is infallible. As the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Lord are pleasing to hearing about his devotees who are very dear to the Supreme Person is also pleasing and potent. If one simply reads over and over again about Dhruva Maharaj, by hearing and reading this chapter, one can attain the highest perfection of life in any way he desires. Most importantly, he gets the chance to become a great devotee. To become a great devotee means to finish all miserable conditions of materialistic life. So just by hearing about Dhruva Maharaj, one can become a pure devotee of the Lord by understanding his pastimes. We can see the difference, We can see the difference. We engage in hearing about so many other personalities, entertainers, sports people, but we don't get this kind of result by doing that. But by hearing Bhagavatam, by hearing about the pure devotees, we can get liberation. We can go back home, back to Godhead. We can engage in pure devotional service. Mahatvam ichchatam tirtham.
Mahatvam
इच्छतां
Ichchatam
तीर्थम्
Tirtham
Shroto shiladayo gunaha.
श्रोतुं
Shrotu
शीलादयो
Shiladayo
गुणः
Gunaha
Yatra tejas tad ichchunam.
Yatra
यत्र
Tejas Tat
तेजस्तत्तेजोनाम्
Ichunam
Mano yatra manasvinam.
मानो
Mano
यत्र
Yatra Manasvinam.
Anyone who hears this narration of Dhruva Maharaj acquires exalted qualities like him. For anyone who desires greatness, prowess, or influence, here is the process by which to acquire them. And for thoughtful men who want adoration, here is the proper means. In the material world, everyone is after profit, respectability, and reputation. Everyone wants the supreme exalted position, and everyone wants to hear about the great qualities of exalted persons. All ambitions which are desirable for great persons can be fulfilled simply by reading and understanding the narration of Dhruva Maharaj's activities. So we are always thinking, what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of it? Am I going to get famous? Am I going to get influence? Am I going to get good qualities? Am I going to become powerful? Here, yes, all these desires can be fulfilled simply by hearing about Dhruva Maharaj. We heard that we can get liberation, we can get pure devotional service, and all the material desires also will be fulfilled. Anyone wants to add or comment anything? I'm not sure how many more are there in this chapter. How many more verses are there? So isn't it wonderful? Just by hearing about Dhruva Maharaj, we can go back to Godhead, fulfill all desires, and as well as go back to Godhead.
True.
Sublime. You see, so it's still 4 out there. We can leave that for tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening and enjoying it. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.